Hey good people, Batavia here. So we have a combo of sorts. We're going to do garden tour like stuff, but we're also going to focus on harvesting quite a few things. We're in the first week of October. I garden in Chicago, Illinois. That is Garden Zone 6, and this is when it starts to really matter as we get into the colder bits of the season. Today isn't a colder day. We'll get to 80 degrees today, and then our temperatures dip. But I'm sure that's not the last of the warm days. We'll see. And it works out well because I still have so many summer vegetables in the garden. So I'm excited about that. So let's go ahead and dig in. So sweet potatoes are going wild. We have things that I've already picked off the plant. So remember the eggplant? When we did the September tour, we had a bunch of flowers and a bunch of budding eggplants. And so I've harvested a bunch of those already. So everything over here, I picked off the plant this morning. There is a cantaloupe down there, and I was trying to separate. These are some of the California Wonder bell peppers that I started picking, and I wanted to be able to show the Triple Delight. These are monsters. So this is like your bullhorn type sweet pepper. And I'll stop when I get to the peppers I pulled off of a single plant. Let's see. So yeah, I pulled these off of a single plant. I only had 2 up here. And then these 3 I pulled off of the plant that was getting a little bit shaded. And then I have some of the early scallop squash. This is the best year I've had growing this, but I've let these get away from me. I really want to be able to harvest these a little bit smaller, and they'll be a little bit more tender. But this is off of that one plant here, and I have it in a tomato cage. I left this one on the plant because I just think that's too big for it to be tasty. It's probably going to be pretty seedy and pretty tough. But the California Wonder peppers, I still have some to pick. I'm basically picking anything that's red. And then we have, I know we're less than a month away from our average first frost. I'm going to leave peppers on the plant as long as I can. So these, I'll take all of these with me. I'm going to leave peppers on the plant as long as I can, as long as there's no sign of disease. We don't have any really bad weather coming in. I don't know. How do y'all feel about squash? I feel like it's such a staple in the garden. And I do have one that I'll be harvesting. I have a couple of smaller of the gold eggplants. And so every year I threaten to not grow it because I have such a hard time with it, and it's not one of my absolute favorite veggies, but I do enjoy them. So maybe it's working out well that I'm only getting a few here and there. But check out the green stalk. Remember, I am only planting out one of them this year since it's so late in the season, but we will be adding a few more to the garden next season. I have 1 month of growth, which I'm pretty surprised by. Basil, celery, which really, I mean, I'm going to end up getting celery full stalks, basically. They'll be small, but they'll be stalks. And then I have a bunch of mint. We just know how mint does. This is like the mint that folks use for mojitos. Folks probably are me. And then this is, I think, just regular spearmint. And then some golden oregano. Things get a little bit sparse down here because there's less light. And then parsley that I've been using. Green Stalk is having a sale where they're limited edition colors like the black here. And there are a few other colors that they only pull out a few times a year. They're on sale along with all other colors. So your 5-tier like I have here is $99. And then the 7-tier leaf is $119. Those are the sales prices. And if you use my code BETTA, BETTA, then you will also receive $10 off your purchase. So all that said, super pleased with the green stalk. The melons, they're coming in the last minutes of the garden. This is the honeydew. This is going to be the one. I have it strung up here. I have a few smaller ones. So I looked up before I came out because I always forget this. I believe it's honeydew that does not continue to ripen. However, cantaloupe does. And so this plant is actually completely detached from the vine. This is, the only thing holding this up is this little pantyhose here. So I'll make sure to take that in with me as well. We have some of the Red Baron peppers. Didn't do great in this container, but we got like 3 peppers here. But I did find sweet potatoes under here, and I put some more straw. So I do have some that are growing here. Plan is to wait until we get our first frost, assuming that it will be like a one-day thing. Then I'll come back in and harvest my sweet potatoes. Remind me next year to share. A few people have asked me starting seeds for the canna lilies. So this is what the seeds look like. Well, this is what the seed pocket looks like. And then once it turns brown, there's a black seed inside. And so these plants are basically from seeds that I've saved from a 2019 plant that I purchased. And then I have 2 new plants I purchased this year with the goal of saving those seeds. Here's the golden squash. We'll see how germination goes. Remember, it's going to get a bit colder, so the days are numbered for all of these kind of summer and heat-loving plants. So I basically have, I'm going to say 3 to 4 weeks to make sure everything that I want is harvested from the garden, if it's not cold tolerant, which much of what we're sharing here is not. So that's my arch nemesis, the white moth. I don't have any fight in me for this particular plant, but it's holding its own. The celery, I never got a chance to blanch it by wrapping it in paper, but I've been using it and tasting it, and it's not bitter at all. So I'm just going to let it finish doing its thing and use it as I need. And then I'll probably dehydrate some of it, is what I'm thinking. We'll see. We'll see how much I use based on the recipes I still have on my list. Tomatoes, we'll have to come back in. It's gotten late in the morning, so the tomatoes are growing all out of everywhere. And so it's really cool to be in October and still have real red and ripe tomatoes on the vines. So for aromas and things, everything is a bit smaller when it comes to the aromas, but that's okay. And then I have, again, that mystery tomato plant here that has always been prolific every time I accidentally grow it. Okie doke, so this afternoon, we're getting closer to evening, and I still have quite a bit to do. I was thinking about putting it off until the morning, but we're going to get rain first thing in the morning, so I want to go ahead and get some of this stuff off the plants. I'll take as much as I have time for after I do this video, and we'll leave the rest to probably the weekend. So the giant Marconi is what I have it labeled as. You can see the plants are a little bit limp, and again, these are a bit dry. I haven't watered them recently, but we're expecting rain tomorrow. Jalapenos, this poor thing. I'm confident it'll bounce back though. Still have those green ones that I want to try the blistering with. So I have that on my menu for this week. Some on this next plant. Here are my habaneros. And I've tried a mango habanero not hot sauce, that's on the list. Mango habanero salsa. Yeah, that was a bit spicy for my liking. Poblanos. A couple of years ago I had huge poblano peppers, and I haven't been able to replicate that. So as I'm going through this, I have about 60 solid minutes to finish filming and to pick vegetables. This is still an unknown. I don't know if this could be the Spanish mammoth. And I don't think I'll be able to get it all done. So I'm going to come in and get what I can harvested. These are more banana peppers. They've seen better days again. The plant. Some of the carrots that I sowed back in the summer. They've been struggling over here, but maybe we'll get some baby carrots. So things that I'll go ahead and come in and get. That is a tomato that I'm pretty sure something has been gnawing at. That doesn't look like regular damage. So tomatoes are a good example of things that I definitely want to harvest today, because with the amount of rain I'm expecting we'll get, there's going to be some splitting, and I want to try to avoid that. And this is basically the last of the peppers, excuse me, the last of the tomatoes for the season. I still have some golden peppers. So, like these yellow bells, based on time, I'm probably going to need to leave these. And they'll be fine, like for the next handful of days. My tomatoes are looking pretty poor, as my mama would say. Oh, she'd say po. and I'm feeling that they are. But again, a few fresh tomatoes. That's still a nice treat. All right, so yeah, the Vego garden beds. This, I mean, I'm pretty blown away. I think a combination of the space I put the bed, the types of plants that I planted, but who knew basil? Like, this is a big note for me. I put these small straggly starts in, let's see, maybe the first week of September. You know, we could just look at the September garden tour. That was a month ago, basically today. And everything is just gone wild. So in the best version of this all, I would come in, harvest tomatoes, peppers. I already have the eggplant. I pick up those melons. And then on a separate day, so like a couple of days later, I'd do a big batch of the basil, which is ultimately what I'm going to end up doing. And then I would go over to the cage baby. And that's where I'd do my greens. I think I'm going to have to actually stop this evening once I get what I can get off the plants in, and just make a firm list to work off of. So I'll have about a day, 2 days where the garden will be on its own because it'll be so wet tomorrow going into Friday. Look at this. I don't know which tomato plant this is, but they just still want to grow. Oh, try not to get sad around this time of year. So, green tomatoes, Ay. All right. I'm kind of babbling now. So, what I'll do to wrap this video up is everything that I harvest, I will share with you so you can get an idea of what's still possible in my area in October, which in my mind was the whole point of this. So here we are. All right, I'll see y'all in a bit. Okie doke, so we're a few days later. Temps at the top of the video were more like 80s, and now our highs are in the 50s. And our lows are more like 40 something degrees Fahrenheit. And so that's something to keep an eye on. All in all, I have cool weather crops in the garden, still have a bunch of summer crops. But the only thing I'm really concerned at would be like the basil. So I know basil really doesn't like when those temps dip below 50 degrees. It's been fine. I've covered some of the basil with some like blankets, basically, you know, bath towels. But then I have some basil that I forgot about over here that's in this raised bed, and it's done fine. So we've gotten down to a low of about 44 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's going to dip a few degrees cooler over the next week. So I'll keep an eye on things over the next week or so. I'm going to do a harvest of basil as soon as I have time to make some pesto to put away. And I also am going to, let's see. No, that's it for the basil. I may dry some depending on how much I pull off the plants, because I also have some basically in three places. The green stalk, the garden bed, Vego garden bed that's right up against the garage, and this one behind me. So super pleased. Like, that's been a goal of mine. I don't want to get too far off track, but let me share this. That's been a goal of mine, to have a bounty of basil throughout the season. And I didn't have it all throughout the season, but coming back around like late summer, early fall with it is definitely a win. All right, so let me try to get through my housekeeping items. I went to look at October's garden last year. This year, as I kind of did this video, as I looked at the footage over the last couple of days, I felt like the garden was just more full compared to previous Octobers, right? And so the garden memory can be foggy though, right? Like maybe that's the thing I want to tell myself because I want to feel great about where we are in the garden season. But I looked back to last year and this time my garden memory was right. Really big difference. I'll link the video if you're interested because I did a full garden tour right at the middle of October. And when I have lunch today, I'll probably look back to the year prior to that. I'm uber curious. Now, I don't know that I'm going to do a whole lot with, what did I do differently over the course of those years? I do kind of want to just relish in the moment. But if I could express one thing as far as kind of a takeaway, if you don't already do it, be intentional about taking video and photos of your garden and make sure you're saving them in a way where you can easily reference them. Talk about a pick-me-up. So, and if it's not a pick-me-up, just again, realizing where you were and where you are, I think is uber helpful. All right, other housekeeping items, green tomatoes. So I'm gonna do a walkthrough when I wrap up here, and I'll probably share some of this in the coming weeks. I need to do an inventory, right? So what do I really have in the garden? How much of it, especially for these summer crops? I don't have a ton of tomatoes still on the plant, but I have enough green tomatoes where I want to think about how I want to use them. Some of them will ripen over the next couple of weeks, but not all of them. So I've done pickled green tomatoes and they're just okay. I kind of had to, how do we used to say it? Like, I had to choke them down, right? Once we get to the end of the jars that I had preserved. And of course, there's fried green tomatoes. So there's that. But if you all have any favorites when it comes to green tomatoes, or in general, what you do with the last of your summer harvest in particular, even if you're past that point, please do share. I think it'll be helpful for myself and others that read the comments. So I want to make the most of what really now is, it's kind of an unexpected bounty for this year as we end the, summer season weeks ago and get into fall. A big thank you. Thank you to those that continue to watch, that share my garden content. Thank you for the likes, the comments. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed already, consider it. There's a button below. And yeah, today is a overcast day, so it is a great day to get out into the garden. I had some work to do inside, but I kind of can't resist, getting some things done outside. I have a list of things outside too, so there's that. But anywho, appreciate y'all spending some time with me. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to share them below, and I look forward to seeing y'all on the next one.